Okay, we're talking about 2017, your best year yet. I'm here with my co-panelist, Mary Jordan, our HR expert of the day. And I want to look at what I thought, in fact, would be the real big one, which was talent shortage. An ongoing, for sure, a perennial and ongoing problem in HR is the whole area of talent and talent management. They say that by 2050 in Europe, there will be twice as many people over 65 as under 15. And you just look at that figure, finding and retaining talent is going to become hugely important and increasingly so. This is not something that's going to get easier, it's going to get worse. And in fact, when you see some of the stuff that's going on politically in the world at the moment in terms of exclusion, excluding the very people actually we need to fuel our machine, it's hard to understand. But I think Angela Merkel seems sense anyway. Um, Much of the developed world and indeed the emerging world, I include like the BRICS, so like the US, UK, France, Germany, and then China, Brazil, and Russia, they have fertility rates below the 2.1 that's required for stable population growth. As this is an issue, and I think also that uh, from the research that we've read, global employers are reporting an unprecedented level of talent shortage. And the question then is, how are these companies adopting new ways of working, additional training, development of staff, and so on? How are they defining or redefining qualifying criteria, if you wish, to include people who lack some skills but have the potential to acquire them? And here's just an interesting one. I'm just reading this out to you now here from this piece of research. 1 in 5 female parents leave work because of unhappiness in their job and desire for better work-life balance, compared to 1 in 10 men. Women are pessimistic about their ability to both manage home life and progress to more senior levels. And I'll ask you a question here out there to our audience. Um, have you found alternative talent pools? And if so, just type in there, what alternative talent pools have you found to bridge these gaps? So what do you think this ongoing talent shortage trend means, Mary, to the HR professional, and how can they deal with this?
Thanks, Padraig. Yeah, certainly we have to come up with creative solutions for businesses generally. We really need to look at tapping into, underused talent pools to overcome these challenges. The HR and business, what we're looking to do is really look at new areas for sourcing talent. Some example of those would be, say, looking at, the older candidates to tackle the skills shortage. And then by interesting, data here, but by 2030, the percentage of older workers in the workforce is expected to rise to 22%. Also, the female labour workforce, it generally remains largely untapped, and many parts of in many parts of the world. So offering things like sabbaticals and good paid time off, programs for part-time working, for example, different job options, ongoing support as well for female parents, coaching, on-site creches, etc. All of these types of things would entice the female parent to feel more confident, I suppose, in juggling work and home life.
But it's interesting, I agree with everything you've said there, actually. And I've got the 3 R's I often talk about: retain, retrain, and referrals. And again, I made the point here that people join companies, they lead managers. I think retaining people is critical, particularly these millennials. I think it's going to be really, really critical, but retaining all people. So identifying the needs, identifying the expectations, managing those expectations, putting infrastructure in place that allows them to work in an effective way, using technology to allow them to work remotely and so on and so on, job sharing, all these kind of things is really, really important in retaining. Retraining is critical. So we need to look at people and retrain them, quite simply, people who are out of the workforce, for example, women who've been at home, who've had a family and now want to re-enter the workforce. We've been willing to retrain them, to change jobs, to restructure jobs to allow them to be able to work more effectively. And I've seen this. I've got quite a number of clients in the tourism industry who address this issue very, very well, particularly with the female workforce. Mm-hmm. And one last, of course, is referrals. So if you have a good brand, if you're walking your talk, walking your values, and so on and so forth, building your employer brand, you'll become an attractive place to live, or an attractive place to work. So people who come there, they will want to be part of it. They will want their friends to work there, and they will refer people in. And the statistics are clear. People are referred in or recommended into a job stay much, much longer. And they're referred in because they're the right kind of people. The culture attracts those kind of people and so on. Okay, so let's wrap it up. I'm just looking here. One interesting comment here just coming in here. And create more part-time opportunities for sure. For sure. This is the future. Interesting enough, I look at my daughter's boyfriend, and he works, he's a millennial, he works 3 days a week, and he's absolutely no interest in working more than 3 days a week. He works long hours, he's a computer programmer, he develops software, he works long hours on his 3 days, and he does his rock climbing the rest of the time, and this is the way he wants to work. So I mean, he effectively is job sharing, and he's a millennial, never mind, say, somebody of my age, a baby boomer or a Generation X who wants to share a job. So it's a real opportunity. Okay, let's just try and let's try and wrap this up and conclude and say, what are we saying? And what I suppose I would say to anybody out there who's listening to us, number one is, I hope you found the material today interesting. We certainly found it interesting putting it together for you. It's based on research, so this is real stuff. It's not something we made up last week. Having said that, look at your own experience. Look back at 2016, ask what worked, what didn't work. Learn from your experience. Most important, I really want to encourage you to do this, most important, look at your team, get them together, talk about sharpening the saw in your own team, talk about your own team spending time together to think strategically about what you want to do in 2017. And this is not a 10-minute conversation. This is about you chunking out a day. I know this is always the problem. We're all time poor, but chunking out time to create this strategy, to think about what's important. And remember, my old joke about 3 birds sitting on a fence. I don't know if any of you know it out there. If you do, I apologize for telling you again. But 3 birds sitting on a fence and 2 decide to fly away. How many are left? And of course, the answer is
1.
I've got 1 here. Do I have anything else from anybody here in the audience? Well, of course, the answer is 3. They only decided. Action is all that matters. You need to carve out time, you and your team, sit down, think about these issues, and craft strategies for how you're going to address them. What do you think, Mary, is going to be best practice? Just in summary, what do you think is going to be best practice for 2017? What do you think are the critical issues that people need to focus on for 2017?
Yeah, so I suppose coaching comes to mind for me, Padraig. There's lots of information out there, neuroscience that's available, supporting the benefits of coaching interventions, really to help those leaders and employees to make those changes and to develop and grow themselves. So compared to, say, your 2-day L&D courses, or your 1-week programs, we have to help learning over a longer period of time. They say that it takes 22 times for you to practice something before it becomes, an unconscious action. So coaching interventions are really becoming far more effective in that space. So that would be certainly my number 1.
Yeah, and I put down, again, and I would say this, of course, but I put down the whole thing of benchmarking and assessments. I really believe that if you want to retain, retrain, and refer, the critical issue is that you have identified what the role is, the person is matched to it, so they're happy in the role, so they're effective in the role, so they understand what the role's about, and they can perform successfully in the role. And that kind of engagement, I believe, is hugely important for my 3 R's. So that to me, Wall Street Journal reported recently, I can't remember exactly when I read this, that 57%, I think it was, of Fortune 500 companies are now using assessments, like psychometric assessments or assessments. An increase, I think, from something around 20 or 21% in the early 2000s. So, okay, last comment. What strategies, Mary, would you recommend for 2017? If I had to ask you, say, what strategies, what are the 1 or 2 things that you would recommend for 2017, what would they be?
Okay, so I suppose planning ahead really is key. Really staying focused on that long-term vision. Back to coaching your team to really identify those important things that you must do, every day, every week, every month, every year, to really achieve that vision.
Okay.
So that would be my...
And how would you do that?
Well, personally, myself, there's a few things I do which really have helped me. So I like to apply, Stephen Covey's principles of focusing on, the important versus the urgent tasks, eliminating those time wasting.
But time poverty, of course, one of the biggest challenges we face, and how do we find the space to actually focus on those urgent or the important ones? But I take the point.
Yeah, especially for every role that we have in life, as a coach or wife or daughter, mother, friend, it's important. What's the important thing in there? So the other thing would be following the principles of Gary Keller,
Oh,
Jim
yeah.
Pappison, the one
The One
thing,
Thing. Great book.
Fabulous. Definitely recommend it. Put that on your Christmas list, folks.
Yeah, right up there with Simon Sinek, Start With Why. Two great books. Gary Keller, The One Thing, and Simon Sinek, Start With Why. Great books. Yeah.
Super. I suppose most important, back to what you mentioned about the wellness initiatives or things we must think about. Self-care is number one for me, Padraig. I try to do a lot of that as much as I can every week, every day. It's really to help stay creative and energized as well. And so there's lots of activities I love to do, but I have to make sure I practice them every day. And if I don't do that, the creativity and energy wanes.
Very good. I see 3 to 4 nights every week. I don't get this one.
Yes, I do yoga practice.
Very
I
good.
started it a year and a half ago, and yes, it's an unconscious habit I have now. I can't live without it.
Okay, just a quick one. Does anybody have any specific questions out there in the audience that they would like to ask us? If they have, I see here that a comment here, New Aging Cork called employmum.ie, and I haven't known them. That sounds interesting. We should Google that and have a check out. See, obviously an opportunity for people to get back into the workforce. And again, just want to wait for questions here. Okay. Somebody said here, I got a question here about what do you see as the number one priority, Mary? So what do you see? I suppose what they mean is what do you see as the number one priority for 2017?
Well, as I suppose we mentioned earlier in the webinar, it is all about the people. I think the talent shortage for me, that's what I would see as key, and investing in the people, really driving things like innovation. People drive innovation, and innovation drives growth, and then growth drives profitability.
That's it, yeah.
So they're the starting point.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and I'll look at a couple questions here. How do you develop? Okay, do you benchmark? So do you benchmark, Mary?
Yes, we do. For sure, it's part of the strategic initiative every year. Before we define goals and objectives, we would benchmark. It's one of the pillars of the strategy plan.
Very good. And I have another one here. How do you develop your people's EQ?
So first of all, it's about self-awareness. You've got to figure out what do you know about yourself to start with, and the psychometric tools certainly help that. But developing it is all about, first of all, developing a self-awareness and benchmark as well. Getting feedback from your peers, from supervisors, managers, and assessing based on what you think, how is that different to others? Okay,
and I have another one here coming in. Do you use coaching on an ongoing basis in your organization?
Yes, I would have. I mean, I'm a professional coach now, so it's what I'm paid to do all the time.
Okay.
But certainly in my previous organization, I did and found it very effective. It enabled a different kind of a conversation, and it gave the power back to the individual to create their own ways and think through their own issues rather than a controlling or directive type of approach.
But of course, ultimately with this, I mean, the key issue ultimately with this is that HR can't do all of this. Ultimately, I believe one of the really important issues is they need to push it out to the managers. They need to push it out to the teams. I mean, managers need to become coaches. The supervisors need to become coaches. They need to understand all the things we've just talked about. And they need, in fact, to implement it. HR need to be facilitators. They need to be coaching and training the trainers. But the other people need to do it because HR sure as hell can't do it. And anybody who thinks that this is easier than the way it was before is dreaming. It's harder, it requires more time, more work, more effort, more resources, and HR don't have them. So they must push it out. And these HR functions must become actually functional of the day-to-day management of the company. So that's sort of it. I just want to say thank you to everybody who showed up today. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. I certainly enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it, Mary.
Yes, thank you, Padraig.
Thank you for your excellent feedback. Thank you for your questions. And again, as I said to you, we will be sharing this webinar, a link to this webinar, a recording of it. We will also be sending out the guide. So we've taken the feedback we've got there, we've taken our notes here and the basic research that we use and compiling a guide, which we're going to send out to all of you, called basically a guide to HR trends to 2017. So again, thanks very much, everybody. Pleasure being with you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.